Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now 7 o'clock. It's time to call this meeting to order, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia. To open, we have an open session for any citizens' concerns. If there's something not on the agenda for tonight and you'd like to share this with the commission, please raise your hand and state your name and address and come forward, and we'll listen to your questions or comments. Nothing online, nothing in the room. Okay, so let's get to the first item on our agenda. We have regulatory hearings. Our first regulatory hearing is a request for determination of applicability by the town of Chelmsford for 9 Alpha Road. I think it's Tony?
Tony.
Yep. Do we have a notice? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, I should read the notice, I guess. So hold on one second, Tony. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billrica Road, on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, at 7 p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed after the fact filing by property owner, Town of Chelmsford, Department of Public Works, for proposed work within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 9 Alpha Road, further identified as Assessor's Map 86, Block 328, Lot 16. The project entails saw cut and removal of existing asphalt driveway to install 6-inch reinforced concrete pad for placement of 4 brine system tanks and associated plumbing and electrical work. Tony?
Good evening. My name is Tony Pucci, the town engineer.
Welcome to town.
Thanks. So you can see I have a marked up plan located right down in front of me, and you can see on the screen. Back behind 9 Alpha Road, there's about an 840 square foot area that was saw cut and asphalt was removed. At which time engineering was brought out for a field visit when we noticed that the location to where the saw cut was done and the close location to the wetlands. Speaking with the director, we thought that we should contact conservation agent, to which case we needed an RDA. So that's why we are filing after the fact. That work has all been stopped since then, but we did do a saw cut removal of the asphalt. What we're going to do is looking to install the 6 inches of reinforced concrete. We're going to have 4 brine tanks that are going to be held in that location, 3 of which are going to be installed this year, with 1 to be installed in future years. The town of Chelmsford has never used a brine system before in town, and so we're looking to add that for this snow and ice as a template to see how it works, and then from here we'll be looking to increase with our fleet going forward. The use of brine system lets us use less salt throughout the town. We can do the brine prior to any snowstorms on major roads, on hills, so the removal of snow and ice during snowstorms is a bit easier on DPW, as well as cost saving. And we can normally, within 3 to 5 years, get the cost back of using the brine system. We will be using 2 trucks this year and looking to add more in the future. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Go around. Thanks very much.
Sure.
John, you want to start?
Well, obviously, this brine it's safe.
Yeah, so it's a sodium chloride mixed with
Yeah.
water. This year and in the future, we'll be looking to add a carbohydrate. So 2 of the tanks will be filled with the sodium and water, or the sodium chloride and water, and then the 3rd would be filled with a carbohydrate, whether it's yeast, some type of beet juice, things of that nature, which helps adhere the brine system to the road, so you can apply 24, 48 hours prior to a storm and get more coverage throughout town. But yes, it is safe use.
Yeah. Is it a containment area?
Behind the location of 9 Alpha Road, it's going to be on an elevated platform with concrete bollards around it.
Can you show us on that map where the location is?
Yes, so you can see there's the 4 circles. Those indicate where the 4 tanks would be located. And that is
Up against the building?
Up against the
okay.
building.
Okay.
And so on the inside of the building, or we haven't had that installed yet, but we're going to have the feeder system either on the inside of the building or adjacent to on the outside, in which case that where the solutions will get pumped into them, into the tanks. The solution gets pumped in, it's not being mixed in the tanks. So we will have a separate device and software that'll mix the exact ratios that we're looking for, and that can change depending on weather conditions, things of that nature.
Okay. I'm good if you're putting it on the roads all over town, I guess.
So this year, with
Figure it
only,
out.
with only the 2 trucks, we'll be trying to hit major roads and hills, but
Yeah.
as the fleet grows, we'll be trying to cover more and more of the town.
All set, John?
Yeah.
Dave?
How often are the tanks replenished?
So that's a factor of snowstorms. If we have a 24-hour snowstorm, would pre-treat before, and sometimes, depending on weather conditions, you can treat during the snowstorm. If it drops drastically, sometimes it goes from 30 degrees down to 15 degrees, you might want to retreat in between, in which case they'd have to make more during the storm. The tanks aren't to be filled or held during spring, fall, or summer. They're only to be used during snow and ice or during the winter conditions. So we'd be using the tanks out, and then there's a self-cleaning system within them to kind of rinse out the tank to make sure there's no backup or storage.
Where does that, when you rinse them out, where does that material go?
So that material would be down at the rinse down out to the bottom of the tank, and I'm not actually sure how we would pump it out from that location. I'd have to speak with Christine. I can get that answer for you later on.
The location of those, there's 4 tanks, right?
So we have 3 purchased. We'll be looking to add a 4th.
What's the distance from that to the edge of wetlands, which is up at the top of that?
So the 100-foot buffer covers the back corner of the building, and it would be the back section of the concrete pad. So the 2 closest tanks would just be touching it, while the other 2
So
would
they're
be right of it.
within 100 feet, but they're not any closer than 100 feet? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And do you have anything, will you have anything in place as self-containment in case a tank leaks or breaks or somebody backs into it with a snowplow?
Sure. So we do have the bollards placed around it, or going to be placed around it, to prevent any vehicles from driving into it. If someone were to have a skid steer or something that was elevated to lift up over that and puncture one of the tanks, the back area does have a 6-inch curb reveal, which goes to a catch basin, which is a deep sump catch basin with a hood, which leads back into a drain manhole into our oil and grit separator. And from there, it would then eventually lead out into one of our detention areas. But that would be if someone were to puncture the top of it, if there's a catastrophic failure, something that we can't foresee, if there's an issue with the tank manufacturing, it's roughly 5,000 to 6,000 gallons. The amount of volume would be.
How is the truck filled from the tank? Is there a hose that goes into it, or
So there's a hose on the concrete. We're going to have, there's going to be the water lines and electrical lines to each one of the units, so that way they can be filled, being pumped from the inside, and then there's a hose attachment that would then pump into the trucks on the tanks.
And does the truck driver fill his own truck, or does somebody do it for him?
So DPW is having training, I believe it's the 2nd week in November or the 3rd week in November, for everyone that's going to be using the brine system. And so I'm not sure currently if it would be the driver or if there'd be someone designated for that, but I know that training is going to be, DPW is going to be attending training for the use of the machine or the system.
And so after a snowstorm and you put all the stuff down, if there's any stuff left over, can we have it? No, okay. That's all I had, Carol.
I'm good. I guess you're saying this is not considered any kind of hazardous material?
No, and so our stormwater engineer is looking through and reviewing the MS4 requirements that we have for storage of our salt shed, as well as brine is considered within that salt shed or salt material. So it's would not be, for the word that you used for
Salt
it.
shed's out back, right?
It is, but we have to have certain containment systems, or we have to have things stored correctly for our MS4 permit. And so she's verified that the brine system with the 6-inch curb reveal was all we would be required for that. Wouldn't be any additional.
Mark's got a good question. It's probably the concentration of sodium chloride. How concentrated is it, or is it just like salt water? I mean, could you taste it, or would it be so salty you couldn't taste it? I have no idea.
So it's a little hard to answer because it would change slightly based on weather conditions. So whether you need more salt, a little bit less salt, based on what the road temperature is going to be, what the air temperature is going to be, the temperature of what the weather is going to be when the snow is coming down. I wouldn't be able to answer that question without having all the different scenarios and then being able to tell you what it would be on that day.
I guess I'd like to see some kind of agreement that in a catastrophic contamination, there's a plan in place to resolve it.
Well, I think you're right, Mark. I think we also ought to know before we approve this whether or not it's considered hazardous material. You said that's a pending question?
So I don't believe it's considered hazardous material. I believe it's considered the same as the salt shed would be
Okay.
for the MS4 permit. So it is not hazardous material to my knowledge.
You said there's a 6-inch curb,
So there's a 6-inch granite curb that lines the parking lot.
but is it waterproof? Is it
This is a curb around the parking lot.
Right, so
Right.
it doesn't contain anything other than keep people from coming in there. It's like a safety barrier. Is that correct?
For the most part, it's not waterproof, but water does run to the lowest area, and since we do have that catch basin there, most of the water before it could percolate or go through the joints on the granite curbing, I would guess that it would end up going through the catch basin first.
And I would agree with that.
So even in its most, its highest strength, it's not considered hazardous?
To my knowledge, correct.
That's what I heard him say.
Okay. Okay, that's it.
David, do you have any comments?
It's sort of been touched on already, but just to get a little bit more detail, Tony, and I'd asked you about this when we were out on site. So what safeguards would be in place to address a spill or prevent a spill, both when the tanks are being filled, prior to a storm, and then when they're being emptied during?
So we will have an emergency spill kit associated with that area for any minor spills or any incidental spills that do occur. Again, that's not on the catastrophic level if someone were to pierce the top of the tank. The tanks are generally made in one plastic molding, so there's no seams that are on them, so they won't split in any location as long as it's been manufactured correctly, which is just a bit of a preventative maintenance for it. But so there'd be the spill kit that would be located on site, which the training should cover anyone that's over there on how to use it.
Okay, so for instance, if the operator doesn't hook up the hose correctly and it accidentally comes off, that can be dealt with.
That would be able to be dealt with, yes.
I guess just my only other comment would be that the concrete for the proposed pad is being mixed off-site, right?
Yes.
And it's just poured.
It's just being
on-site.
poured, yep,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So I really don't have any concerns.
Have a motion should we close the hearing? Or do we have anything from the public? Any comments or questions? No? Any motion to close the
I
hearing?
move we close the hearing.
Yeah. Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Okay, now we have a motion to,
This is a request for determination, and it's probably a -3.
That's what I would recommend, yes.
I mean, at the outset, it sounded like it was somewhat serious, but I don't, after having had his explanation, I don't think it is. I mean, and it's a good idea to start using this stuff, too.
yeah,
So I move we issue a negative determination for reason 3 for the Town of Chelmsford Department of Public Works for 9 Alpha Road.
are there any conditions?
Wash the truck out.
Sorry?
Don't wash the truck out near the wetlands, the cement truck, when you're pouring the pads.
Yeah, that was just similar to what I was going to suggest, is that just make sure nothing gets into the catch basin there, during the course of the,
Got one more question, just to bring up before we close this. When the trucks come back after the storm, you have to clean the insides of the trucks out, they get washed out?
So you wouldn't clean the inside of the holding cells, the holding tanks that are on the trucks. You'd only be cleaning the nozzles that are on them, in which case it would then be that small amount, and then would do it away from the catch basin in that location, be able to use a spill equipment or something to clean up that excess
You
material.
have a truck wash down there now?
We do not have a drive-in truck wash, no.
Yeah, just something outside, nothing?
No.
They've wanted one for 15 years.
Yeah, I thought they had one,
I
yeah.
thought you built one.
Not the drive-in truck wash? No, there's a bay where you could use a hose or something just to rinse off, but not, I don't think what you're asking about for a truck wash,
Okay,
truck washing
almost.
station.
Westford uses this, Brian, right?
So this is used in various of communities. We've gone out to Lexington and Andover to see how their brine systems, what they've purchased and what they're using. I
Yep.
believe Westford uses it.
Yeah, I think Westford does.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion, -3,
-3.
and we had conditions,
just make sure nothing gets into the catch basin during construction.
okay, and a motion and approved,
Second.
and seconded by Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, all set. We will,
Let me ask you, why did it take so long for towns to think about using this? It sounds like it's pretty basic chemistry, right?
A little bit. Some of it, a lot of the times, is just no one's used it before.
Yeah.
And so someone trying to be first is always difficult, particularly with procurement laws and trying to purchase the items and materials used for it. So,
Because
Bit
now,
of a
every
ledge.
time you see the weather forecast come out, you see the trucks pre-treating the streets, right? In all the big cities, so everybody's using it.
right. It has been proven to be less caustic overall
Yeah.
than use of just sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, or calcium chloride. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, we have the paperwork circling, and you can connect with David.
Sure, I'll let you know, Tony.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have request for determination of applicability, Joseph Roscioli, 55 Turnpike Road. And the legal notice here, pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, at 7:05 PM to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by property owner Joseph Roscioli for proposed work within riverfront area at 55 Turnpike Road, further identified as Assessors Map 85, Block 324, Lot 11. The project entails construction of a 284 square foot addition.
Good evening. My name is Pat Flaherty. I'm here for Joseph Roscioli, and his builder is here too from Hancock Construction, Bob. And this house is on the side of Turnpike Road. As you come through, come by 129, head down, past the water department wells. There's a couple of new houses there, and it backs up to the back of the property has what I think is called River Meadow Brook going through it. And there's some wetlands, and there's an old barn also there, as you can notice. And the idea is to put a small addition, 14-foot 9 by 16, on the back of the house. And we had the bank of the brook and the wetlands flagged by Norse a few years ago for the first edition, and we're using that same information. And we're okay as far as wetlands go. We're way outside the buffer, but we are within the 200-foot riverfront. And if you look at the plan and you look at the addition, there's a berm between the addition and the barn that prevents any water or any spillage or anything from going back into the wetlands or into the brook area or the river area.
Where is that, Pat?
I can, right between
Well,
right between the barn, see what's labeled
Okay.
barn,
Yep.
and where we have the addition, the proposed addition, less than halfway between the addition and the barn is a berm, probably 4 or 5 feet high.
yeah.
Yeah. We can't figure out why it's there, but it's there. And it prevents any runoff,
Probably
actually.
to stay out of the brook.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I didn't mean to answer your question for you.
But I like the answer. So we're actually, we don't think that there's any chance at all of any silt or anything getting over into the brook or even into the wetlands. So if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer.
John, start with you.
It looks fine with me. I know the property, I know that big berm,
You do a good, yeah.
and I don't even know if you're gonna even need, you know, a
Silt
silt
fence.
fence or anything there because of that berm.
That's what I was thinking, that there's no need for
It's
it,
a
yeah.
big berm,
Now, you answered another question for him.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
thank you.
no,
But it really is, it makes sense, we don't really need anything.
you did one addition already to the house.
Right, a small
This
addition.
is just a second addition.
Yes.
Is it in,
What were
is
the
it,
requirements in the first addition? Do we,
We used the same drawing, same conclusion. There was no need for a silt fence, no need for anything.
How long ago was that?
2018.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it's.
You.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Dave?
Is this an addition in addition to one that's there, or is it replacing one that's there?
It's just in addition to an
Adding
addition.
on to one that's
Adding on
there.
to it, yes.
Is it gonna be a full foundation, or is it gonna be on,
No, a full foundation and a small deck next to it.
and you're gonna have to take material off-site, I take it? A full foundation?
Yes, it wouldn't be suitable to dump it anywhere there. There's no place for it.
And you're gonna, where would you store construction material? To the right of the driveway?
Probably not, because there's another driveway there
Oh, okay.
for the neighbor, so
But all the work's pretty far away from the wetlands.
it's quite a bit, yes, it's quite a ways away,
That's all I had,
yeah.
Carl.
Bill?
That looks fine.
Nothing.
Mark? I don't have anything. David, do you have any comments?
No, nothing in addition to what's already been said, so certainly a negative determination.
I have a motion? I guess we should close, any questions from the audience? From the public? No? No questions? Okay. Motion to close the hearing?
I move we close the hearing.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. So we close the hearing, so now we'll take a vote on, we'll take a motion on the proposal.
I move we issue a -3 determination of applicability, and I didn't hear any requirements.
No conditions, yeah. Okay. Does that sound right to you, David?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Second?
Second.
Mark, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay? Okay, unanimous?
Great, thank you
All
very
set.
much.
Thank you very
Pat.
much.
Good seeing you, Pat.
Good luck.
Hey, well,
See you, Pat.
we miss your colleague, Pat.
Okay, paperwork is going around. We will move on to the next item. We have a request for determination of applicability for the Grist Mill Condominium, 11 Cushing Place. I do have a legal notice here. I get to read this again. Oh, my goodness. So much fun here.
Why don't you
Okay.
give that to one of your associates to read, so you don't have to do double duty?
Maybe next time. I'll give it to you. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room
They're gonna have a
204 at the
crane
Chelmsford
on site.
Town
You better
Offices,
go and check
50
it out.
Billerica Road, on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, at 7:10 PM to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by property owner Grist Mill Condominium for proposed work within riverfront area, Beaver Brook, and 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 11 Cushing Place, further identified as Assessors Map 84, Block 336, Lot 995. The project entails trimming of one tree and removal of one dead and two declining trees. Do we have somebody on?
I thought Donna Reddy was going to be here, but I guess she doesn't. So anyway, these, if you see on the screen here, these are the locations of the trees. Trees 1, 2, and 3 are the ones to be removed. Tree 4 is just the one that's going to be trimmed. The branches are going to be removed. I certainly agree that there's some safety concerns there. So certainly, I think it's.
They're leaving the stumps, David?
They are leaving the stumps, yep. So.
This is, there's a sidewalk right there, isn't there, right?
Yes, yeah, there is a river walk there, very, very close.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't realize the Riverwalk was built in the wetlands.
Well, no, it's not in the wetlands.
Well, isn't the shaded area wet? It shouldn't be, it's too high, but it says it is. Anyhow,
Well, this isn't completely accurate,
oh,
so,
so can you answer questions, David?
I should be able to, yeah.
You went out there?
I did, I went out there.
I take it these are Norway maples when he calls them maples, or are they regular maples?
No, they're actually sugar maples,
Ouch.
number of sugar maples.
Ouch.
One of them, although, well, I think it's number 1 is completely dead.
Right, and two's very close to the building, right?
Yep. And, I mean, they're all, well, 1, 2, and 3, well, 2 and 3 are declining. 1 is dead, 2 and 3 are declining, there's no doubt about that.
Well, that's interesting that we never have any discussion with builders about when they're clearing the site, what are you doing to protect the trees that are gonna stay there while you're doing your work? We probably should ask that question. Anyhow,
There's, on another tree there, I did point out some bittersweet, that it would be good to get that off the tree, and my understanding that is going to be done. And I believe, well, I know she told me this, and I thought she would be here tonight to say in person that they're also going to remove a tire and an old battery that's in the river or very close to it. So I think that's definitely a good thing.
And this has nothing to do with the other side of the brook,
yeah, I was gonna ask that question.
right?
Correct.
Right.
This is,
So
this would have
just
come independent?
Right.
Independent,
Yes.
yeah,
Other than it might have been driven by them being outside looking.
yeah,
because we were out there a
actually
few
starting
months
to
ago.
look and see,
Right, right.
right. Yeah.
So,
I'm just curious,
Oh, Marquis doing the work?
yes.
He owns
Yeah,
it.
they're
He
professional.
owns the town.
And so the crane is going to
Been
be
quite a bit.
stored
Yeah, where's the crane gonna go? In the parking lot?
down in the side parking area, yes. Yeah.
Well, we can send John out to monitor the trains, to change trains' activity, right?
What time do I have to get up?
I don't have a problem with this. I think it's a good idea.
Is it later than 3:30?
I'd like to see this not stop there, but I'd like to see what was supposed to be done completed at the same time. The work was originally supposed to be done by the developer.
That's an interesting question, David. We had an understanding with the developer, it was gonna be a condition of a certificate of compliance. And I don't know that the developer has any legal obligation to do it now that he's left the scene. So I don't know who has the obligation to do that work.
Well, if it's an issue of enforcing a requirement of a certificate of compliance, then it's the applicant.
Okay. And, I mean, that's compounded by the fact some of those units have changed hands.
That's right.
And I don't know how they changed hands with an outstanding certificate of compliance.
Well, but I think it's when the association sold it, or when the developer sold it to the association. I think it was at that point that triggers the certificate of compliance. I don't think there are any issues with the individual units.
So we don't have any leverage.
Well,
maybe with the association.
yeah, and my recollection was, I know we talked a little bit about this before, my recollection was that the outstanding things that needed to be done was the removal of junk and debris
Right.
in the river, and I think this at least partially accomplishes that by removal of the old battery and the tire. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be done. You know, I looked at, you know, the area a little bit. I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me. On the other hand, there was a lot of vegetation that maybe was concealing some additional stuff that could get out of there. But I'm certainly happy to talk to Donna about
I
that.
think we should. We've got,
I'm not voting in favor of this because I want that stuff cleaned up that were originally supposed to be cleared up, the invasives taken out of there, and all the trash that was in there. Was supposed to be part of the COC.
Well, another possibility would be just to continue it and, you know, ask Donna to come here the next hearing.
Well, could they do this part, Mark? And then, no?
no,
No,
'cause
I-
they're looking for us to vote on a request for determination, and either it's yay or nay.
Right.
It's not subject to.
Well, you continue it and you talk to her if she,
Yeah, I mean, if they're agreeable to, you know, doing something additional, I don't see a downside.
I don't,
talking about it.
I don't think I think that's a good idea, because I'd also like to ask them, what was the result of the discussion they may or may not have had with the developers across the stream for the new condominium?
Yeah, let's not
As I
confuse
understood
this,
it, that nothing happened about that, right?
I don't want to confuse this with that. That's a separate issue.
No, but if she comes here, we can ask her that question, after you've taken care of what you want to do.
Although I just noticed that, well, I'd seen it before.
This
that-
is the only leverage we have to do what Mark wants.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that.
I tend to agree too. So I guess I'd like to suggest, so do we have a motion to continue?
Yeah, the only thing I won't point out, though, is that they're actually planning to start, they've got the work scheduled for in the morning of the next meeting, or
Well,
the date of the next
It's
meeting.
too bad.
So maybe, I don't know how difficult it would be to reschedule. But,
Yeah,
It's kinda too-
I still think, I'm with Mark. This has been hanging, sort of a
Well, it's
I know,
Groundhog
Mark,
Day for us.
it's
Yeah,
five
it keeps
five
coming
years
back.
now, right? Is it
Yeah.
4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I make a motion to continue it till the next meeting.
And
Yeah.
the-
Do I hear a
and the
second?
reason for continuance is to have a discussion, a broader discussion about cleaning up the stream pursuant to the original order of conditions.
With the discussion with the representatives of the condominium
Right,
complex.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care who cleans it up.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All unanimous, I think. Right, Dave?
Yes.
Yes.
so I'll let Donna know.
In principle, I don't think we have any issue with it. It's the principle.
Well, I think it's nice to have the applicant
Yeah,
there to answer questions, no matter what it is,
Agreed.
for any project.
yeah.
They left it up to the association to take care of this problem, because the developer never finished it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we
Okay.
can talk about it at the next meeting.
Yep. Okay, next item on our agenda, we have a request, yes, request for determination of applicability, Samida and Purushottam Sane on 24 Old Farm Way, with Tom Block from Morgan Exteriors representing the applicant. And we have a notice, one more time, pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, at 7:15 PM, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by property owners Samita and Purushottam Sane for proposed work within 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 24 Old Farm Way, further identified as Assessors Map 37, Block 130, Lot 19. The project entails demolition of an existing 16 by 20-foot deck, followed by construction of a 16 by 20-foot sunroom addition and 16 by 23-foot deck. So,
So,
do we have
looks like,
someone representing?
apparently not. I thought Mr. Block was going to be here as well. But actually, this one is virtually identical to another project at 10 Cove that Mr. Block, Morgan Exteriors, was also doing. I think it's the exact same situation, standard order of conditions, or standard conditions with a negative determination for installation of erosion control, and, me meeting on site with the contractor to, work out a work sequence, et cetera, so.
Have you visited this?
I have,
Okay.
yes.
How's the topography?
The topography, there's a gentle slope down toward the wetlands.
Thought it was steep. This is on the left side going down Old Farm Way, on the right side?
Well, let me see, if you, it's a cul-de-sac,
Right.
Right, but
So-
going down to the end.
so if you're going around the cul-de-sac, if you're facing toward the
Well,
beginning
it
of
all
the cul-de-sac.
depends on where 24 is, because the front left half is very steep to the wetlands. But down, as you get down to the cul-de-sac, I think it's less steep. Is that what
It's-
24 is?
Yes, there is a down gradient toward the wetlands, but I wouldn't describe it as steep. Erosion control does need to be, placed there. But they were very good to work with at 10 Cove. They were very responsive, and,
Any trees coming down?
no.
I don't
No-
think there
no-
are
no
any on
trees.
that site. That was all farmland, wasn't it?
Well, and this is all lawn. This is all lawn in back here.
Where is Old Farm Way?
Right next to Roger Lozelle.
right off of Old Westford.
That road that goes in right next to Roger's house.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Back at Sully's, or in front of Sully's.
Yeah, it goes down to the junior high school.
Shanahan do that?
Yeah, he did, yeah, I think he did.
And plus, I mean, it's 77 feet away. I mean, I measured it with a tape measure. I mean, that's,
Is this all on stilts, Dave, do you know, or is there a foundation?
boy, that's a good question. I think it's on big feet.
So
I don't-
there's no material that's gonna have to be taken care of?
Well, there will be some excavation, and I don't know, probably, even after backfilling, there probably will be some, a little bit left over. But that's one of the things that I'll talk about, with the contractor, work that out.
I'm disappointed the applicant's not here.
Well, I guess I have to chase these people more than
I don't
No,
mind
you
if the guy
don't have
doesn't-
to chase him, all we do is we don't act on it, then next time the guy, he'll
Right, I
get
don't mind
around,
if
he'll
he
show up.
doesn't want to pay for an engineer to do that. Drawing like that's fine, but he's got to be here for it.
Well, and I send them copies, I email them copies of the legal notice, so, they know about it.
Well, I'm not comfortable either, but we just had the grist mill, and we asked them to come,
Right,
so we
yeah.
can discuss
At
it.
least tonight, we should be consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
table
I
it.
mean, you gotta be
I think
consistent.
we continue it.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the applicants here.
You may want to mention that to everybody.
Nothing might change,
when you come
but-
to the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, we have questions we want to ask. So, do we have a motion then?
I move to continue.
I'll second it.
John seconds. Bill moves, John second. All in favor of
Aye.
continuing?
Aye.
All unanimous, okay.
Oh, you need a reason?
Yeah, the
Reason is-
applicant,
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean.
yeah, that's the reason we continue it, was the applicant was not here to answer our questions.
Nobody representing the applicant
Right.
was here, yeah. Whether it was the applicant or their representative.
Right.
Okay, next one. 270 Billerica Road, a notice of intent which is continued, and so we don't have to read anything because it's a continuation. And,
Do they have, they don't have open issues with us, do they, that
Oh, I'm
we're
sorry.
aware of? They have open issues with
planning,
board?
and this one's continued.
Well, so
They've requested.
this is 270 Billerica
Billerica
Road
Road, yeah.
has requested a continuance
Yeah,
to
but
the
it's
next meeting.
because they have working issues with the planning board?
I'm not completely sure.
Oh, okay.
Weren't they adding a piece of land there or something?
Oh.
Wasn't there?
My understanding is that all the engineering issues have been worked out, that our peer reviewer had signed off on it, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the reason for the
Yeah, because I
continuance.
thought we were pretty much all set that night.
Right.
We had a few
But
issues,
Few issues, but
Right.
they were waiting to see what planning board did.
right.
But, I mean,
Well, they've requested a continuance with planning as well, so
Okay.
I'll try and get more information, but, it's what the applicant's representative did request a continuance. so. No, I've seen no reason not to grant it.
Do I hear a motion?
No, they've had, you mean to agree, do they have do they give you a date, David? Do they want to
The
continue?
next meeting, it's.
Next
The
meeting?
next meeting, yes.
I move we continue the hearing on 255 Princeton Street.
No, 270.
270 Billerica,
270 Billerica Road until our next meeting, which is on
September 27th.
September 27th.
Second from Mark.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, we are just cranking through here. Okay, we are now on another continuation. This is for 255 Princeton Street, Maple multifamily land.
I just, hi, Mark. I just have a request, because I had asked that the commission's peer reviewer, Phil Paradis of Beta Engineering, be here, and he said he could be here, but he probably wouldn't be able to get here until 7:30, although it's 7:39 now.
Oh, there he is. Nope.
No, that's not him.
Bill House.
So I'd like to, Mark, I'd like to wait a few more minutes, see if
Certainly.
Mr. Paradis can be here, so, thank you. So, the commission can take up other business.
Okay, then why don't we start with our discussion topics here? We have the first one on our list is the Williamsburg Bank restoration and the O&M plan. David, do you have something?
Well, Glenn, do you want to start off? I think this is, we're here at your behest.
Glenn Diggs, 220 Wellman Ave, Precinct 2. As I believe everyone knows, there was a restoration project done in Williamsburg on the riverbank, approximately a mile plus some in length, and there were a number of conditions associated with that. And it seems that some of the paperwork was not generated in the right way, and maybe some of the language. I'm here to try to see if we can all, the town and Williamsburg can come to a better understanding of what we all should do and to make things right. First of all, there was the work was done by Epsilon, and part of their program was, there was some additional work required by the town, different tasks, one of which was an operations and maintenance plan creation. Prepare a bank operations and maintenance plan, O&M plan, in accordance with the order of conditions, and attend one Chelmsford Conservation Commission meeting to present the O&M plan. I don't know if they ever did that, but there was a document which was the Wellman Avenue Bank Stabilization Project Post-Construction Operation and Maintenance Plan, which is this document, which David was going to supply to everyone. I don't know if you've seen it all. But there are a number of stipulations in it. And one of the stipulations is that it's to be signed by both Williamsburg 1 and Williamsburg 2. Most of the bank is Williamsburg 1, but a portion is Williamsburg 2. No one seems to be able to find a copy of that document signed by Williamsburg 1 and 2. Not Epsilon, not the town, not Williamsburg. And that document is supposed to be signed before the certificate of compliance. I have the minutes of a meeting, it's real small, sorry, of a meeting February 18th, 2020. And this was on the agenda for that night. Request for certificate of compliance, new. And the applicant was not present. The applicant in this case was Epsilon. However, the owner of the project was the town of Chelmsford, but it was requested by Epsilon. Ms. Gurdon, I guess she was the previous agent, inspected the site in July. Plantings appear to have been looking good. 3 growing seasons have passed, not entirely in compliance with the ongoing condition. Only one annual operation and maintenance report was received from the condominium association. As far as I know, we never did any, and no one seems to be able to come up with the document saying otherwise. So the result was that approval tabled until the ongoing condition, language, and compliance can be clarified. So it was put off. Then I have the minutes of your meeting on July 7th, and COVID was going on in this time, and that's why there's such a irregularity in the meetings. And in that meeting, there was a request for certificate of compliance continued, Merrimack Bank stabilization, where in the copy says work was completed, this is from the minutes, work was completed about 3 years ago, and the area has stabilized. The condominium management association is maintaining the vegetation as promised. As far as I know, we never did anything. The only work we did out there was, there's an area between the units and the walking path behind the units, and that area was weed whacked. It's loaded with poison ivy and all kinds of deer sweet and a number of other things. That was weed whacked. But nothing was done on the riverbank, which in theory is what was worked on, and that is from the crest of the hill where the riverbank is down to the water. That's where all the work was done. The associations maintained the vegetation as promised. Then no comments were received from the audience. Motion by Mr. Vines to issue a certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions for Merrimack Riverbank stabilization as presented. Second by Mr. Bischoff. And then there was a roll call vote, and everyone said aye, unanimous. The only problem was, I have a copy of the certificate of compliance that was issued the next day after the first meeting, when it was said it was being put off. So 4 months later, you said that you were going to approve it. So it's very unclear of who owns what, and the details of what should be done. At this point, you know, the Williamsburg operates as a board, a 5-member board. I don't have the authority to tell you to do anything, but we're trying to come to some sort of understanding with the town of what the town would like us to do, so that we could be in compliance going forward for everyone. And that's the conundrum that we're in.
Thank you very much. Dave, do you have any comments you want to lead us off with?
Well,
And I also have to add, as you know, some of the players are no longer here. Gary Brischetti's not here, Steve Janey's not here, the conservation agent is not here, so there's,
Okay.
you can only go by the paperwork that exists.
Yep, paper trail, yep.
so Glenn, what specifically would you like the commission to do?
Again, I don't
there?
have the authority for the board to say whatever, but I would guess that probably the place to start, and again, we're looking for your advice because you're more the experts in this than we are, is that the town somehow finds someone who is an expert in river vegetation, takes the document of what was supposed to be planted down there, goes down and inspects what is there, what shouldn't be there, and how it should be maintained going forward so that we can come up with a nice, tight operation plan that everyone can accept and abide by. Since it was a $4 million project and we spent $3 million of federal government, we spent $1 million of Williamsburg money, and we spent X amount of money from the DPW for monitoring and so forth.
Questions from the board, from the commission?
When Epsilon did the project, did they, as part of their project documentation, didn't they outline what needed to be done on a yearly or?
There is a document, as I indicated, Wellman Avenue Bank Stabilization Project, Post-Construction Operation and Maintenance Plan. No idea who wrote it.
Epsilon wrote it.
Epsilon wrote it for themselves, basically, and they submitted it to town. They charged the town for writing it.
Yeah.
And in it, it details a number of things, including what shouldn't be there, what shouldn't be there, what they planted, although they say specifically that at the time of the planting, some of the things weren't available, so they decided on other things.
And in the O and M plan that was not, the record does not show was formally adopted, right? In the O and M plan, it was a list of things that have to be done periodically for some number of years. And it designates in the plan, I think, and we have the plan here, does it designate who is going to do the work in each year? And I take it, it's the condominium association or their appointed people. So the first thing I think we need to do is to make sure that the operation and maintenance plan that's here, and I think that's it, that all three parties, that is Conservation Commission and your two associations, agree that that's an operation and maintenance plan for maintaining and running the riverbank for, I don't know how many years, it's
In
probably.
perpetuity, perpetuity.
Whatever it says, right? So, and then now, in parallel with that, I think you made a suggestion, we need someone to just take another look at what was in that and say, that's a reasonable O and M plan. And then make sure it says in there how often the the report will be made, I assume it's annually, but, because that's no, and then that report goes to the Conservation Commission. And it's our job to verify that if, when your experts say these things have been done, we confirm or disagree with that they have been done.
Right. It just seems that everybody's kind of been negligent, and we're just trying to get on board
Yeah.
with everyone and go forward in the best.
So do you have any reason to believe your friends in the other association would not agree with what the O&M plan is?
I spoke to the manager for them, which is Jim Toscano, Andover Management, Property Management. He said he never signed anything, and if anyone signed it, it would have to be the
No,
board.
I understand that, but
They never signed it.
what we're asking is, will both parties sign it, well, all three parties, will they sign it now?
I can't,
Because,
answer that.
because if somebody, if one of the applicants won't sign it, then there is no
well,
O and M
there
plan.
are
and that's
two,
a- And that's a,
there are two parts of the riverbank.
I understand.
One part is Williamsburg 1, the other part is Williamsburg 2.
And there has to, and there's an O and M plan for both parts, correct?
One plan for both parts.
Yeah, yes.
Similar.
So both parties have to agree to that plan. If one party doesn't agree to it, then we don't have an O and M plan, and then I think we would go to court and say that the agreement's no good.
Did both associations pay the additional, it was $1 million, right?
The whole.
Williamsburg came up
Everyone
with?
was assessed approximately $2,000, $1,900,
Both
1 and 2.
1 and 2. So it's in everybody's best, all the owners' best interest to maintain that.
That's right.
As it was designed, so that 10 years, 15 years from now, you're not going back and repairing something that if it was maintained, it wouldn't be a problem, so.
Well, now, yeah, I'm assuming the O and M plan's a good plan.
I don't know.
No, I mean,
I
the
don't know who
consultant,
drafted it.
the O and M plan was written up by the guys that did the work.
Yes, but I don't know if they were river vegetation experts. I don't know who wrote it. There's no notation of
The
who
guys
wrote the
The
plan.
guys that did the embankment work wrote the O and M plan, is that
Well,
correct?
it was Epsilon.
And they're the guys that did
No, I
the work.
don't, no, I don't think they were the actual contractor. They were the commission, or the town's engineering consultant.
Epsilon.
Right.
Okay, so then all three parties who are gonna be signatories to it should agree with what is in the O and M plan. That's the first thing we gotta get done, is to get all three parties to say, that's a reasonable O and M plan for what has to be done to maintain the riverbank.
Well, it's just the two parties,
Well,
Williamsburg
no,
1 and Williamsburg.
there's two condo associations and us. That's when I said
Well,
three.
but there's no indication on the plan that was drafted. There's no place for the town to sign.
Well, I'm assuming, what I meant, I guess, Dave, is that we would have accepted the O and M plan.
Yes.
That's our approval.
As long as the two associations had signed it, yeah.
So I think the first step is to get everyone to agree that that's a reasonable O and M plan. Then the second step, assuming that happens, the next step is, to what extent over the last 4 years has the O and M plan been adhered to, and where is it deficient? And where it's deficient, what's the plan to bring it up to whatever the standard is in the plan?
Well, I don't think any provision of the plan has been implemented.
Fine, fine.
But that's the assessment that you're
So
suggesting.
then there's a catch-up phase to this plan.
Right now, it's wild and woolly down there. And it's not getting any better. So, we'd like to see if we can come up with a plan going forward that we're all behind.
So how do we get someone capable to go, I think we can-
I'll give you another alternative, is we take the O and M draft,
Yeah,
and we ask someone to tell us, is that a good O and M plan for this project?
yep.
If they say no, then we've got to hire someone to give us a better one. If they say yes, then we take it and we give it to the condo association people and say, our expert says this is a reasonable O and M plan, you need to agree to it. If they say no, then we've got some legal issues we gotta worry about. If
In
they-
conjunction with that, don't we also need to make an assessment of what's down there?
Well,
and
yeah,
what's
that- I mean,
supposed to be
that-
down there?
Yeah, but that's what, I mean, for someone to take a look at the O and M plan and say it's appropriate or inappropriate, they have to do it in the context of what's there.
I think, I just give my opinion, I think the O and M plan looks pretty good, but I think there is that other component, and it was actually required in the order of conditions, but I don't know if it was ever done. The applicant shall provide a report on the types and quantities of invasive species on site. Then the report should include a management plan and shall be submitted to the conservation agent. So I don't know if that was done or not. I mean, the certificate.
Dave,
of
I think we
compliance
can
was-
assume that nothing in the O and M plan has been done. Nothing.
But this,
Start
this,
from scratch.
this is a special, this is a condition in the order of conditions.
Right.
If it wasn't done, that, I agree, should be the first step, is that an invasive management plan needs to be
The only
prepared.
way we're gonna know it is either if you or some number of us or a third party goes out there tomorrow or whenever and evaluates what we got. So we know to what extent, and I think what I heard Glenn say, and I think you agreed, it looks like none of the O and M plan has been done, which means we need a new O and M plan, which includes a catch-up phase to get to where we want to be, and then a continuing phase. This is not going to be a small project.
But we also need an invasive management plan. And I can certainly go out there and say, yeah, the place is infested with invasives X, Y, and Z, but I think, a consultant needs to be hired to prepare an actual
Yeah,
plan.
I'm not saying who does it, I'm just saying, and it's got to be an expert. And
Right.
the association's going to have to pay for it, because they would pay for it in the first place.
Well, do you agree with that, Glenn?
Again, I don't speak for the board, but I think we might have a problem with that. The reason is.
You wouldn't
we
have had a
never-
problem with it when you were when you came
We never
before us
signed, we
originally.
never signed the agreement.
Then, look, if that's the case, this project never would have been done at all if you guys were unable to agree with us.
No, I'm saying that we did not sign that
I
one
don't
document.
dispute
And
that.
that the order of
But the reason you didn't sign it wasn't because you didn't agree with it.
I don't know.
Right. I think we have to assume, until we've proved otherwise, that the applicant, or the beneficiary of the work, agreed with the work.
I can,
Or we wouldn't have done it.
I wasn't here when this
I
was
know
all
you
done.
weren't.
But I can tell you right now, if I was involved now in that language there, I wouldn't sign it. It was obligating
And
Wellman
you wouldn't have
to,
had the project built.
this came about well after the project was approved.
If this had been
by
done on
everyone.
the timeline that was correct, the O and M plan would have been part of the order of conditions that we approved.
But it
That's the
wasn't
way it's
signed.
supposed to work.
Well, but.
And argue whatever semantics, but the certificate of compliance I don't think, shouldn't have been signed until that document was signed.
I'm trying to fix the situation, not debate what should have been.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do.
So let's not debate what should have been. Let's try to fix it.
You know, also here we have, well, he's gone now, Scott Feldman, who was also a member of the board.
On the phone.
Oh, he's
My
on the phone.
recommendation is we hire a consultant to evaluate the order of conditions that we believe was put in place. And to evaluate that and to report back to us the status, what's the status of that order of conditions. And then from that, we take action to correct it, because we know something's gonna have to be done to correct it, right? Because no work's been done.
But at whose expense?
Right.
At the condominium association's expense. Now, if they refuse to pay for it, then we have to look at legal recourse.
Different avenue, right.
Because under normal circumstances, and I know I said I didn't want us to talk about that, right? Under normal circumstances, the applicant pays for the consultant.
Well, and that's what the order of conditions requires, but, and I don't mean to speak for Glenn or put words in his mouth, but he's already told me that the applicant is the town, which is true.
But it was for the benefit of the association.
Did the town have to it was a grant money, right?
Yes.
4 million?
yeah.
And that, the town had to do that on behalf of Williamsburg.
Because an individual homeowner or condo couldn't do it.
Right.
It had to be a town that did it.
Right.
Right, so they did it on behalf of, for the benefit of Williamsburg 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Right, but they were the owner of the project. The town was.
The funds that were given from individual homeowners were put into one fund.
Pile,
Right.
money, and then we
So
paid that
doesn't that
money.
by definition make that part of the contract, that they were involved in the original contract?
Sure. It was a $7 million project roughly?
4 million,
4 million, 3 fed and 1 private.
right.
And that's your point, Mark.
Right.
So $1 million of that $4 million project was individual
Right.
condo owners.
So how do we move forward here? Do we
I told you my
take
thoughts.
yeah, well, but I mean, do we have an
Do
action
you
plan?
know someone, Dave, that we could hire to evaluate the order of conditions and whether it's a...
Sure. I know anyone of a number of
All right, the
consultants
first
that-
step then is why don't you get a couple of bids? Because I have no idea what these is going to cost. You can write up a statement of work that we can
Sure,
show to a
yeah,
couple of people.
yeah.
Did you say this was a mile long?
Over a mile.
Over a mile, wow, okay, so that's a lot of,
What, the embankment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, that's a lot of territory, okay.
So then Dave can come back to us with a couple of bids. We'll pick one. He'll start the work. He'll deliver a report to us and the condo association.
Well, you're saying he'll start the work. You haven't ironed out who's paying for it.
Well, yeah, you can't ask a consultant to do work without knowing who's going to pay for it.
The town's gonna pay for it, and they're gonna get it back from the condo association one way or another. Otherwise, the work doesn't get done.
Well, unless the commission is willing to fund it out of its own money, I would have to speak with Paul about that.
Then you should. I would say you should, because we've never done something like this before, I don't think.
I mean, maybe there is a source of funding that's available, somewhere else in town, but, yeah, I would not recommend that the commission spend its own money to do that.
Glenn, is this
Don't
your
disagree with
opinion?
you.
Yeah, sorry.
Glenn, is this your opinion that you're not gonna pay for it, or that's the association's opinion?
I don't speak for the board on this matter. We would have to have a vote on it. It would then go to our legal experts to look at the applicable documents, and they
think
would
that's
make
something
their
we should start.
recommendation to us of what we should or shouldn't do. That's
So
just a
look to
guess,
us for the
it's not a
next $3 million
guarantee.
to rebuild it.
I think,
Anything you might want to add?
No, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. As of who pays for what, almost think that's secondary right now, figuring out what has to be done and
No,
what's actually
it's not secondary, because we can't proceed unless we know unless we can tell the consultant how he's gonna get paid.
Right.
But we don't know how, I guess, you're gonna get the bids from the consultant?
Yes, I can get a cost estimate. Certainly can do that.
Sure.
Like I said, I don't wanna be arguing about who's gonna pay for something that's gonna be a few hundred or a couple $1,000s before we can then go forward and say, well, now it's gonna be X amount of dollars to actually do the work.
David, you wouldn't happen to know if there's any money left in the federal grant, would you?
I don't. I can certainly ask.
I mean, this might be a reasonable funding under the grant.
Was this 2 years ago?
That was 5 years ago, I think.
5?
4 years ago, at least.
Yeah, well, I think the notice of intent was actually filed in
I mean,
2015.
we may have had to wrap up the grant, so it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
exist.
believe that already is, but I can ask Paul about that.
Okay, so let's move forward then, we'll do that. You've got an action to
So,
look at.
maybe we can take a
getting
look at
quotes.
a couple estimates at the next
So
meeting.
what's the scope of, that we're looking for somebody to bid on?
Scope of work is to take the O&M plan that was written and to evaluate, was it appropriate, how much of it has been done, and how much has to be done.
What's the gap?
But I think it's gonna, involve reviewing the original notice of intent, because the consultant is gonna have to know the project area, they're going to have to review the plans.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I can have a couple of estimates back in 2 weeks.
No,
I'll
it's-
try. And plus all of the files are up at the DPW still, so I've gotta
We're
drag a little
not
bit.
looking for a quick answer on this. There is no quick answer. It's
Yep.
going to take some time.
Yeah, it's gonna take
It's
some
just that we need to
Gotta
start
get started.
somewhere.
Yep, no, appreciate that.
And That's why we're here.
Do we know if the Registry of Deeds is looking for a quick answer?
I don't know
So
why
I
they
guess
would be.
we don't know that, because nobody.
Nobody's been held up in selling a condo, have they?
No.
Because there is no order of conditions.
It was filed.
Well,
yeah, I mean, the certificate of compliance was
Certificate of
filed.
compliance was filed.
Does the registry know that is in, that
It's recorded in
certificate
book
is in doubt?
35773, page 1.
Yeah, but does somebody know that, our town council ought to know about this.
Well, so what's the question?
No, it sounds to me like some documents were filed that nobody knows were filed.
Well, I mean, I think from a regulatory standpoint, I think the issue before the commission, at the end of the day, is enforcement of the certificate of compliance. Enforcement of the provision requiring the perpetual, maintenance.
Yeah, right.
And that has not been done. So, in my opinion, strictly speaking, it's a violation of the certificate of compliance, and, ultimately the question is, does the commission want to enforce that?
I wouldn't disagree with that. We need the O&M plan to be brought up to date. And whatever work has not been done needs to get done.
So,
It would also be, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it would also be good to know how much of this work can be done if we were to start it in the fall, or is it automatically going to be defaulted to happening in the spring, just because you can't do this in the winter?
Well, I don't know the specifics of the plan, but you're right, some things can be done at different times
The
of the
plan
year.
talks about doing it in the spring.
Yeah.
Well, I think, but when it comes to invasive management, there's some invasives you attack in the spring, there are some later on in the year, some in the fall. So again, I think that's going to depend on the specifics of the invasive management plan.
And that would be up to whoever you find that's the
Yeah.
expert.
yeah, exactly, and what's there.
My concern is I don't want to be in any additional degree of non-compliance for work that we can't be doing until the spring anyway.
Understood.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so we need to move forward. So we have actions for David, and then we'll,
Does the O&M plan say who's supposed to do the work?
Yes.
And it is?
I'll give you the specific language.
Is it you guys, or you guys, and you guys can hire someone to do it? Is that?
The last statement is O&M plan commitment. We, the undersigned, agree to follow regular upkeep of the area post-construction, and the condominium association will be responsible for O&M expenses incurred during the maintenance period. Never signed by your
No,
condominium.
but it doesn't say who does the work.
Well, but if you go to the order of conditions, a representative of the condominium association must sign the O&M plan stating that they agree to follow the regular upkeep of the area
Right.
post-construction.
I mean, they could hire someone to do it for them.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
don't have.
that's how
Right,
I would
Right, they
interpret
don't have to
this.
physically do it, right.
Is that they would have their site manager or management company or whoever,
somebody.
someone they sub out to.
All right, we got some action
And we're
items.
not trying to be obstinate or
Yep.
difficult, but we
Yep.
need to come, things
No,
were
we-
not done
We
right,
appreciate that you're trying to
and
close
we
this.
just want to straighten it all out.
So I think we obviously aren't going to be ready 2 weeks, so I think you'll just have to be in touch with Glenn on when we have another discussion and some emailed updates on progress, and maybe we'll have you back in a month or two, something like that.
And probably a consultant or consultants will want to do a site visit prior to writing up a proposal. So I'll coordinate with you on that?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very
And we'll
much.
need authority to go on your land.
I'll make myself available to be there because we don't want anyone being accosted by,
Because I assume you guys own down to the watermark, right?
as far as we know.
Yeah,
For a reasonable fee, we'll let you know.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Let's
you.
move on. Okay, so we need to go back to our previous, this was 255 Princeton Street.
Yes, and Phil is here.
Bill is here and Mark is here.
Yeah. So, Mark, if you could just update the commission on where things stand.
Certainly. So Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of the applicant along this call with me is Mark Berinsky from the applicant's team. We submitted revised plans that were revised to incorporate information requested by the planning board and also by Beta Group with regards to the stormwater design. We've submitted to Beta those revised plans, revised stormwater calculations, and my understanding is that Phil from Beta will be able to inform the commission on Beta's satisfactory review of that stormwater design. That was the outstanding issue at the last meeting with regards to compliance with the application before you.
So, Phil, could you please address any outstanding issues from a stormwater perspective?
Yes. So there were only maybe a half a dozen or so issues related to outstanding comment. We have updated our letter issued today. There is a few, probably like 3 or 4 recommended conditions. There is a few discussion items, probably one item with the planning board, but SW11 is, no.
Well, you were
SW11.
yes, yeah.
So that, this required soil testing that's required to analyze the depth to seasonal high groundwater and soil texture to be able to confirm that the infiltration basins will function. The majority of the site is sand, especially upland areas, but there is a transition that probably occurs near the wetland resources themselves, and that happens to be where the basins are located. So in each case, there's one test pit. We just want to make sure that before we go putting in buildings and such, that there is adequate space for these infiltration basins. If there's a transition in the soil, then obviously you won't get as much infiltration. You may have to adjust the size of the basin. The basins are pretty much confined between the wetlands. All the slopes required in building 3 and or the roadway. So, I'll defer to the board, but it's probably prudent to get these test pits done before we go too much further.
So I think what you're recommending, Phil, is that the hearing be kept open pending this additional soil testing.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I think, I think it can be done during construction, but it's much easier to adjust the plan before there's a lot of shovels in the ground.
So that's the primary issue that I see that the commission needs to decide, is whether you want to keep the hearing open pending some additional.
How big a deal is it to do another test pit? How big a deal is it?
I don't.
Half a day's work?
I'm not doing the work, so I don't think it is.
It's half a day's work at the most?
Correct.
Yeah. So why is that hesitant on anybody's part? They should just do it.
Well, I suspect that the applicant probably wants the hearing closed tonight. I'll let Mark speak
That's
to
good.
that, but I don't know.
How many test pits are you looking to do, additional?
Just one, I think.
So, yeah, 1 in the small basin and 2, because of the size of the big basin, we would want 2.
So 3 more.
3?
Yep.
Okay. Mark, do you have a comment?
So this is the first time I've seen this letter. I was not circulated on this letter when it was issued. So my apologies for not having read this before the meeting.
Our apologies that you didn't get a copy of it.
Well, yeah, it came at 3:18 this afternoon, and I just was really
That's
busy,
pretty
so I
typical.
apologize as
No,
well
no,
for not.
If that's the case, you don't need
It's,
it.
yeah. I mean, our understanding, talking with the planning board administration people, was that this was expected to be voted on tomorrow night by planning board. But I'm not sure if Mr. Berinsky might have some more insight on where that stands with the information letter that we just received today.
Yeah, yes, if I could speak, members of the board. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We certainly don't have any issues with execution of the test pits, and I apologize that I don't have the letter in front of me. I think it was merely a function of timing, that we would like to doing those additional test pits when we've mobilized on the site, so that it would be something that'll be happening once we're in, probably with issuance of the building permit and site preparation work.
I don't have a problem with that, just so long as it's done before we vote.
Well, but I
No,
think,
he's saying
I think
when
he's saying that they don't want to do it until they start construction.
It would be our preference to do it when we're already mobilized on the site with the building permit. Obviously, that's in conflict with, we can't have a building permit if we don't have an issuance of this NOI. It's more just about, doing work when we have forces on the site. It isn't really about doing the work.
What's the
It's
incremental
about work.
cost difference between doing it the way you suggested and just getting it done? What's the incremental cost difference?
It's
In
it's negligible.
Right.
This isn't really about money at all.
Then that's-
It's
that-
about
But that's what it
time.
should be. It shouldn't be who's got a bigger hammer.
So what would it take to make this happen in the next week or so? What's the work involved? What does it look like? Get a backhoe excavator?
I don't think it's complicated. I'd have to defer to civil on that. In the conversations with the planning board, we basically said, yeah, we will do this, but it is our preference that it be done at a later time. And I want to be careful in speaking. What I would say is, what I would characterize as the feedback I've heard from the planning board based on my understanding of their comments and town council's comments on the draft decision, is that they were comfortable with that. I want to be very careful characterizing the opinions of the planning board. But generally, the draft decision that has been submitted, we did say that we would address this, but we would do it when it was just a little bit better flow. It also just makes it easier for the planning board then to vote for approval and let us to proceed with other items. Again, it isn't about money by any means. It's probably just more about timing.
We can.
Most of our meeting tonight has been going through mistakes and fixing things.
Right.
Let's get this done, then he can get his thing done. That's fair.
Get what done?
Have him do his test holes, have an engineer do his samples.
He doesn't want to do them now, he wants to do them later.
I know, I'm saying the way I feel.
I hear you. I don't, actually, we do have some leverage, if that's what we're all talking about. The leverage is, in our order of conditions, is a special condition that says these additional test pits will be done at time certain to be determined. That way it's in the order of conditions and we're not holding them up.
But
And if that were to be a condition subject to prior to issuance of the building permit or so, whatever you're communicating with, we would find that very reasonable and acceptable.
and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I just want to make sure the commission understands that suppose at that time, when construction, the project has already started, that the soil testing indicates that there needs to be a redesign of the detention basin.
Yep.
Then it's a matter of stopping the project,
Right.
coming back to the commission.
Right.
And I think our peer reviewer's point is better to avoid that. If it's
Yeah, that's
just,
why he's recommending, right. And so
Not
what-
doing a design build. Not doing a design build, doing it from the beginning.
Yeah.
so the way to avoid that is keep the hearing open, have the soil testing done, and make sure that
Right.
the information.
So to the chair, I think what the applicant's looking for is a special condition that basically states that all the soil testing has to be completed and found to be suitable for the current design prior to any work on site, and and even I guess you could say even the pre-construction meeting with the Conservation Commission. That way that data can be collected, analyzed, and confirmed before construction starts. At the same time, that allows the applicant to know that they can start to plan to mobilize things on site. Again, I think it's getting the machines on site is not the challenge. It's just the delays of getting the permits issued results in a backlog, and it starts impacting the construction timeframe, which ideally is to get things moving as quickly as possible, so that way work can be done in the best seasons. So if the board was amendable to that, I think that would, again, and the condition can also state that any deviation that the result of the soils means that no work can proceed until an amended order of conditions is requested. So I think the applicant's understands that there is a risk that he may have to come back before the board and amend the order of conditions, and that can happen sometimes. But I hope that that might be able to be an avenue that we could use to allow things to proceed.
Thank you, Mark.
But
Yeah,
if we
Phil?
go with that route, where's the peer review looking at the results of those test pits down the road?
You'd have to put that in as another condition, that the commission's peer review
I
shall
agree with
review.
Mark. I think now's the time to do it. We're really complicating it by putting it off. If it was brought up by the peer review to do it, I'd rather do it now than later. I think there's too many ways it could get, I don't know, either missed or we don't have the peer review option anymore. And like you said, the design could change if there is an issue. I think now's the time to do it.
What's the difference in time between, let's just say you did it soon, like in the next few days, versus your planned start of sequence of events if we were to give you a conditional approval? When would the test be done then? Is it weeks, months?
When they're on site building the
Right, but how far down the road is that?
I'll defer to Mr. Berinsky on that question. The question often bases on when the next meeting is with the commission and how quickly the order of conditions can be issued, but Mr. Berinsky might be able to answer the clarifying question on the timing of how quickly the test pits would get done.
Yeah, I'd be glad to respond. I can be calling our geotech and civil tomorrow morning and scheduling. I could not tell you what we've seen. To 2 weeks lag to mobilize on the site. So I don't think we're far out, and if that was, again, if the commission wanted to issue the NOI subject to this condition, and that condition, it has to be done by a given date, and then has to be peer reviewed subsequent to that, we're amenable to that. Well, I think needless to say, our preference would be to ideally receive the NOI and then do this work and not delay the vote, but that's the purview of the board to decide. But we'd move on it in short order. I just don't want to commit to timing until I've spoken with Geotech for scheduling the equipment.
This is already about a 9-month delay from when I think I heard you guys say you were going to be in the ground a year or so ago.
Yeah, MEPA has, as you may be aware, there are some new provisions with MEPA pertaining to economic justice populations that have added considerable time and expense to many aspects of the entitlement, not necessarily what the town of Chelmsford is doing, but there's other components of MEPA that have been incredibly time-consuming, and continue to be.
I think that was a reasonable compromise that was proposed by the previous speaker.
By Mark.
By Mark.
Yes. So do you want to make a motion?
No, I want to hear what other people, I know there's two guys that don't agree with that. How about you and John?
I'm inclined to go with you, Dave, on this, but I understand sort of the tone tonight has been, we keep getting knotted up in things not getting done, and it's very frustrating.
You're right, Carl, but I would not put Trammell Crow in the same discussion with the other people we've heard tonight.
Exactly why I'm I have a sort of a certain amount of faith here that things will be done, and I could be proven wrong, but, or things wouldn't be done, but I tend to think that's the way I'm leaning.
We're talking 3 test pits.
Yes.
We're talking a small excavator, 3 test pits,
In a peer review.
and a peer review.
It could be all done by next meeting, by
Right.
our next meeting.
Right, but what I understand is that hurts their sequence of events for trying to work with the planning board on the building permit and those kinds of things, if I understand it correctly.
I don't know what we got to do with the planning board.
No, it's
I'm
just-
just saying we're trying to accommodate the applicant. That's what,
You're right, John, independent of what
No.
other things, that sounds like an amount of work that's reasonable in a fairly short period of time. Okay,
yeah,
I
So-
don't know if there's a,
so Mark, do you want to make a motion? Or anyone?
well, one motion, I think, is that we require the applicant to build, to dig 3 more test pits as indicated by the Beta, is it Beta 3, is that their name? Indicated by Beta 3 and report to us.
You mean keeping the hearing open pending that?
Keep the hearing, yeah, well, we could, yeah, because we may have to discuss the results. We don't know that so you have to keep the hearing open, right?
They change the site plan, because it's the system.
Yeah, if there's gonna be changes, you're gonna say, you can't close the hearing. You're gonna leave the opportunity so that's one motion, and the other motion would be to allow the test pits to be dug coterminous with the other activities, and put that in an order of in a special order of conditions.
a change order.
Well, then they'd have to change.
Yeah, but if they can go in there and start this, get somebody in there to do the test pits now,
No matter what, they can get
no
somebody.
matter what,
Yeah.
It's gonna take the same time frame.
it's gonna take the same time frame. That's
So
like, Mark,
I don't understand why the big
Well,
push.
because one's in parallel and one's just in sequence. But you're right, Mark, it's not a big, absolute time frame. It's not a big deal.
No, but I don't understand what,
Well, let's ask, what, if we say that you have to do the test beds now, keep the hearing open, what is the impact to your project?
Well, I mean, I don't know how the planning board will view that, and they probably will see you as doing your business, and they'll do their business. Again, we'll get everyone out, we'll do that, whether this is required now or it would be subsequent. We'll then have to, I don't know if we'll even have to update MIPA. We probably, we may have to delay our submittal to MIPA, which we were planning to submit the final DER on the 15th, which I believe is Thursday. So that would then push us out, I think, 2 weeks on MIPA to the next submission window. That's approximate, though. I'd have to check the schedules on that. I could be wrong, but I think that was the concern we had.
They can make it up.
So it's
I'm
a
more
2-week delay.
steadfast than ever. I just soon get the job
So
done.
why don't you make the motion? Since you were the one that originally brought it up.
Move to continue,
And
and 3 test holes.
Yeah, move to continue, and have the work completed, the system designed.
have the 3 test pits that are designated in SW 11, right?
Right.
Of the, of Beta 3's report.
And I'll forward that tomorrow to you.
Okay. Second.
Have the peer,
The results will have to be submitted to Beta 3,
Right.
and they'll have to evaluate the results.
And to David.
Yeah,
Right.
and to David.
Yes.
we'll have a new plan.
Well, you may or may not.
May
Well,
not have to have
If everything's copacetic, you'll
Right.
just see 3 spots
Yeah.
on the plan.
I mean, I think everybody's hope would be that it wouldn't require a new plan,
Right.
but better,
Best, yeah.
better to know that now.
We certainly agree that the site is pretty sandy.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the motion from Mark.
Second.
I heard a second from
Dave.
Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you so much.
It's a-
To the chair, if this is the only outstanding issue, if it's possible that the commission could just ask David to just tell the planning board that the only reason why the commission didn't issue the order tonight was because they wanted the soil testing done, and that was the last outstanding issue. That may just help the planning board understand the commission's reason for continuance, so the planning board can see that if that's the only outstanding item from the commission, that the commission would be expected to vote at the next meeting for approval, that may help the planning board as they deliberate tomorrow night.
I think that's reasonable.
Sure,
Yep.
I'm happy to do that, and I should be able to start working on the order of conditions as well. So I don't know if I can complete it by the next meeting, but I think it can be well along, so hopefully it won't be delayed 2 more weeks.
There are,
Okay.
Much appreciated, David.
have we voted?
Thank you very much.
Before you go away, first of all, no, he can go away. I'd like to say that I think this peer review report from Beta 3 is an excellent report. I think
Agreed.
they did a good job with it. There are a few other open, what I call them open items, but they're not big deal. They're asking the question, who's going to do something? And I don't know the answer to that question, so I can't.
Right, and we can talk to Phil next time, but he does have some other suggestions about other special conditions to include, but really, they're actually pretty routine in this kind of situation.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if something has to be done, somebody's given the responsibility for doing it, that's all.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay. Is that it on this? We're
I
moving on
think
this.
so.
So Phil, thank you very much for your input as well. If he's still
Have a
there.
good night.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. I think we're done with our hearings.
Yes.
And we're now on to the second discussion point, proposed dredging of the pond at 260 Old Westford Road with Barry Jefferson and Bill Askenberg, the Roberts Field Advisory Committee. If I'm not mistaken, this is the field right behind the fire station at Roberts
This is where the
Field.
kids used to skate when the ice froze?
Yeah.
They don't skate there anymore because the ice doesn't freeze, right?
Can you guys hear me and see me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Barry Jefferson. I'm from 5 Bridle Road in Chelmsford. And I'm here tonight as a co-chair of the Roberts Field Advisory Council. And I'm here with Bill Askenberg, who also is part of the council. And as the paper says, I have some questions. This will probably be very quick. I have some questions about the dredging of the pond at Roberts Field. Before I get into that, I just want to make one comment. I really admire you guys for the stuff that you guys get dragged through and have to wade through from all of us that come before you. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks.
If I'm allowed by the CTM, I will share a couple of pictures with you as I just talked to a couple of questions that I have. This is probably going to be very quick. So I'm going to see if okay, the host disabled participant screen sharing. Is there anybody from CTM that can allow this, or am I out of luck?
I think I can allow it. Hold on a second. Okay, I think you should be able to now, Barry.
Okay, let's see. Yes, looks like I can.
Yep.
So this is just a few See if I can find the go button on this thing. I can show you.
Should be.
Yeah, I'll be right with you if you will let me start it up.
We can see the go button at the bottom, but maybe your screen is,
Yeah, it was all the stuff from Zoom that was hiding it. I think it's just started. Okay. Are you seeing this full screen?
yep.
Yes.
Okay. So what you're seeing here, again, what I really am here for, Bill, is just to get some advice and guidance from you guys on something that we've needed to do for a long time.
Here it comes.
What we're looking at here is the pond at Roberts Field. And the pond was built back in, it's 1974 by the JCs and the Army Corps. It was to be used as a skating pond, as I think one of you commented. It's very shallow. It's only about 3-4 inches in the middle. And this just shows you standing by the fire station what the pond looks like. I just shot this the other day. The pond needs dredging. It does support wildlife, and it's been drying up. It was last dredged in 1987, but has dried up several times since. So, in good years when we've got water, you're going to see ducks and frogs and God knows whatever kinds of wildlife out there. But today, it's really stone dry. And these pictures, as I said, were just shot yesterday and had several inches of rain. And you can just see how dry the land is. So that's all I wanted to show you on that, is that we really want to go about getting the pond dredged. The question I'm having, and Christine Clancy's been very good at working with us lately on the committee. We're looking at probably $750,000, probably the high end, for doing the dredging, and that would include, removal of the material, finding a place for it to go, and also that depends upon how much material we pull out. We're looking at about 1 acre now. So that's probably the background. The dredging has been an item listed in the 2017 Park Master Plan. It's something we've recognized for several years as really being needed. And again, it's wetland area, and when that pond dries up, it certainly affects all the animals and whatnot that live there. So it's both for our needs and for the wetland creatures. So I've told you this because I am not clear what's the best way to go about getting clearance, getting this approved from a conservation standpoint. I know it's a major part of it. We're working on funding right now, and so we may be 6 months or a year away before we have the funds to take on the project. But I wanted to get any comments from you folks about what we should be, what the steps would be for getting this approved, getting clearance from a conservation standpoint, and any things that we should and could be doing right now to kind of get ahead of the game. Bill, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sure. So can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Only a couple other things. 3 years ago, we got in line. We are on House Bill 209, Chapter 209. It's an environmental bill from the state. So we were allocated or earmarked up to $500,000 for projects, so we can, and intend to submit an application this year and then the next year, if we don't make it this year, to help cover the cost of the dredging. We've been talking with, there's been talks with the DPW about the dredging for about 12 years now, I guess. And the plan had been with the original crew there, it was to go ahead and get the permitting and sort of have that on the shelf and then dredge it out. That was at least the stated thing. So when there's been a little bit of change there, now with Christine, has given us the cost, and we have sort of the potential funding. I think what we're looking for is sort of, if you guys could help us understand the process. It's going to obviously be something that the town undertakes, but we're just trying to kind of help move it along.
Okay, thanks very much. Anybody want to jump in here with thoughts on, David, do you have?
How come they didn't do this when they just rebuilt the whole place?
Nobody went out and got the permitting.
Yeah, they need the permitting for this, yeah.
Also, you gotta understand that when you said we built the whole place, there was a lot of money that went in, and we built Friendship Park. That was all new equipment that was brought in, so there's been a lot of focus on Friendship Park. Now we're trying to take on the rest of Roberts Field, and we've put exercise stations and walking paths, and of course, playing fields. So we're in that phase right now of the park overall. I don't know if that answers your question, but, you know, we've sort of done it in that order.
I mean, you can't do it all at once, so.
Well,
exactly.
They had a major excavation job going on.
Sure, but there's funding.
Major job,
Yeah, it was big.
all right? And now, I don't know if they've ever seen dredging being done. Are they talking a drag line, long reach excavator? You're talking an acre. I've dug ponds.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking different equipment than the kind of equipment that would have been used to level the ground for the playground.
Bulldozers?
According to Christine, yeah, she basically indicated to me that that there's some different equipment and some special equipment involved in this.
Yeah, there is.
So let's.
It's all about the permitting.
Yeah, let's talk about the permitting. So we can sort of put on the side the cost, and, you know, that's a different discussion, but do we have any insights into what permitting is needed?
Yeah, I think the primary issue here is going to be, well, so if the dredging is being done for the benefit of wildlife habitat, well, but it probably already is wildlife habitat, so, you know, what is the motivation? I mean, it said, I saw the sign that said certified wildlife habitat. Well, does that mean it's a certified vernal pool? I mean, if it but if it typically dries up every year, it could be a vernal pool. And
it's not a vernal pool. It's not spring fed either. It's a runoff pond.
But how do you know it's not a vernal pool?
Well, we've had the high school science department go and look at it, and they determined that it wasn't, as was not the pond in the back as well.
Okay.
So that brings me to, why are you dredging it? What's the purpose of dredging it?
It's not, honestly, I think it's because we want to maintain a pond at the park, and the main use is going to be aesthetics and skating. And the wildlife is to maintain that.
It's maintenance of an existing pond.
Right.
Correct.
But it sounds
Because the
to me
pond's
as
basically
though
gone now.
you need an engineer to determine what has to be done.
You know,
Correct.
I keep saying this because I'm the old man on the board, but in 30 years, I've never seen an application to dredge a pond in Chelmsford. So I haven't the vaguest idea what the DEP requirements are.
Well, I've been through some dredging projects, and I think The issue here, if it's to enhance wildlife habitat, it then maybe could be what's called an ecological restoration project, which doesn't require a wildlife habitat study. If it's not being filed under as an ecological restoration project, then a wildlife habitat evaluation would have to be done. And I can tell you, especially, I don't know whether any sort of dewatering would have to be done as part of the dredging, but if that's the case, I know in past projects, DEP has actually required that turtles be picked up and moved from the area that's being dredged into an area where, so it's potentially, onerous in that way. And the permitting is potentially onerous in terms of the review, the studies that might have to be done. I think that there are a number of issues that would have to be addressed even before a notice of intent filing was done. Yes, it being filed as an ecological restoration project. What is the purpose?
Who determines that?
David?
Yes.
One thought on that is, the idea has been to wait until the pond goes completely dry like it is right now. The idea of going out there when there's water in it and wildlife that's in that water is just changes the level of the effort.
Time out, guys. Conservation Commission's not gonna design this project for the applicant. What we need to do is to evaluate what the applicant does and see that it's consistent with DEP and regulations and our own regulations. And until they know what they want to do, we can't do that. I would note that on the GIS map, the man-made skating rink, or whatever you want to call it, is partially in the wetlands. So you got to worry about wetland regulations.
Well,
I think David's comments were good ones. You got to take a look at what the various state restrictions are and pick the one that's the least onerous and make a case for it, right? And your wildlife restoration, what was it, wildlife restoration?
Ecological restoration.
That's gonna be a hard sell if the reason for it is to let the kids go skating in the wintertime, although you could argue that wildlife restoration is really for spring and fall and summer, not so much for winter, although there is some, but I don't wanna spend my time tonight designing it for these guys.
Well, I don't think that's what we're doing here.
Well, we were starting to.
No, but you're giving us some important input on this. This is helpful to know.
Well, and I guess if it were a private party that was talking to the commission, I would recommend that, you hire a consultant and look at the purpose of the dredging, and again, what provisions under the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations and the town bylaw and regulations that would seem to be the best fit. And I don't think that's a guarantee that the commission would approve it, but I think that's where you should start. I don't know whether you have a budget to hire a consultant or not, but that's what I would tell a private party.
I don't think we have a choice. We're going to have to get money to do the work itself.
Yeah.
Do the booking, and clearly a part of that money will have to be for this. And what you're telling me, it sounds like a consultant is going to be
Yeah.
pretty much a non-option. I certainly don't have the experience to make these determinations and guide it. And I don't think anybody on the council does.
On the advisory.
On the Roberts Field Committee, we don't have that kind of expertise, so this is
Does anyone on the board have any idea of what kind of cost the consultant would be?
$5,000.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good number, isn't it?
Like the timing of a study like that, how long would that take, do you think?
6 months, 6 months?
Well, it would depend on the scope.
Yeah.
Again,
You guys would have to define what scope you want them to follow, right? You may even have 2 or 3 scopes. We'd like to know what this is gonna look like, or this is gonna look like, or that's gonna look like.
But I would certainly chime in with my opinion. I would like to see verification that it's not a vernal pool.
Yeah.
I think that's probably another good place to start. Or at least, if this has been looked at in the past, I'd like to see the documentation.
And if we just had a vernal pool check, that was 2,000, 2,500, something like that?
Yeah. 1,200.
Yes, it turned out not to be a vernal pool, so it was a
No, I
little
think
bit
it was
less
under
than that.
$2,000,
But
yeah.
that was the estimate.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, you said this was not stream fed, this was runoff fed?
Correct.
I mean, the GIS map for the town shows a stream going into and out of the pond. Maybe it's, I mean, obviously it doesn't exist today because of the drought, but,
Right.
so I don't know whether that would make a difference. If this were runoff fed, and you ever got to, I said that it's not our job to design it for you, but you certainly want to do it when it's dry, because it's easier. But if it's
Right.
stream fed, that's going to affect the
But I
whole
can't be the
size of the project.
I'm doing the studies.
So let's move on here. I just checked with David, and David is willing to help you in guidance. He can't be your consultant, but he can certainly be kind of help you with some questions and guiding you in this process, because he's got experience both with the, dredging and so you might want to come meet with him to go a little further on this.
Can I ask a question about the process? What do you guys feel like the process would be? I mean, we wouldn't be the applicant, the town would be the applicant. So who in the town would be the most likely?
Yeah, it would most likely be the town engineer.
DPW?
Yeah, DPW town engineer, somebody like that. That's what
Okay,
we
and then they would
typically see.
typically be responsible for the permitting and the construction of the whole project, right?
Yes, they may get a consultant to do that, or yep,
Okay, thank you.
yep. That's the normal process we see. Is that helpful?
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys have been very helpful. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
that's good to hear.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, next, tree committee request for comments on the trees on the town common.
Why are they asking our opinion?
Well, yeah, I don't know either. I looked at the email that came around. It was really, I could not get a good view of the pictures.
I
It
have
looks
no-
like they have, different layouts, which I don't want to offer a whole lot of
No,
input on
right.
layouts. I hope they pick all native trees. Beyond that,
It's certainly,
I
it's
don't know
certainly
what
not
else.
within our jurisdiction. Maybe they're just seeking our opinion. I don't know.
we support natural resources in the town, and that's part of our.
Wouldn't that be
That's-
DPW though?
Yeah, and they're part of it, and they are, but they're kind of reaching out to any interested parties in town, and that was the
alright.
request.
Okay.
If we had input, and I think if you were to ask me, I'd say we support this, we're happy that it's happening, but we don't have any specific input other than make sure it's all native trees and not Norway maple and Callery pear or whatever the other one is. Is that?
And umbrella magnolias.
Willows, or umbrella magnolia, oh, yeah. Ooh, David. Anything else, any other comments on that? I don't know if you want to, where did that come in from, or to? Did it come to you, Dave?
Martin, to him, right?
Was it to you? Yeah, but
Yeah,
was it to
yeah,
you
chair
or
of the tree
to
committee.
Chris?
Yes.
Maybe it went
I
to
think it was
Chris.
to me.
To Chris Garrahan, yeah.
All right, so I can talk to Chris and we can come up with a response.
And I'm happy to help out.
Okay. Let's see, the last thing we have on our discussion is the possible acquisition of 1.34 acres off Wilson Lane for open space. We had an email that we got to review, and the picture here is, Dave's gonna get in front of everyone, so.
Where's Wilson's Lane?
This is off of Main Street, Dave, down where the dam is.
Yeah, all right. Right, this is the parcel he's talking about.
Yes.
right here.
Yes.
Where's the dam, Dave?
Way up that way.
Oh, I thought the dam was right
Over here
there.
is Stony Brook, is that's?
Yes.
Over
Yes.
here is Stony Brook.
So I think the dam is right here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So to click on this, do the, hit select.
Well, which theme do you want, Dave?
Well, I want you to get to edit. Is that hit selection?
Whoops, sorry.
Can you get rid of that? Or just move this over? I don't know what's behind this.
I thought I could get rid of that by doing this.
What I want to do is just highlight, there's a bunch of parcels up from that go quite a distance that are owned by conservation and the town and/or the water department.
Right.
Yeah, hit edit. Okay, and yeah, you got one. This one here,
That's conservation.
that's conservation.
All the
This-
green is
This is
conservation.
the parcel that they're talking about. This was the one they want us to buy.
This one,
Right.
yes.
This one is undefined here.
Yeah, it doesn't have an owner, right?
Right.
Not listed at the,
And then if you keep going up,
yeah.
the water, this is what, which,
The blue is water.
this is water department, this is town of Chelmsford.
Well, it's conservation.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. So, we looked at this a while back, and none of us really knew a heck of a lot, other than maybe Billy, about the area. I've become somewhat familiar with the areas because of the work that's being done up at Freeman Lake. This is assessed at 29,000, 25,000?
I think.
Oh, I
So
thought,
that's-
I thought I saw,
Yeah. No, click this one here. So that's this big one. Click that one.
so I think I have to get out of edit.
Chris is, Carl is right, it's like 25 to 27 grand.
No, I thought it was less than that. Hold on a second.
28.9, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now.
And you know,
Okay.
if we were to buy it, it would have to be an appraised value, the assessed value is probably as close as any. But, you know, it'd be interesting if we could get out, I'm not so sure, you could maybe do something about this piece as a conservation reservation, because it's nice walking along the Stony
Can
Brook.
I ask you, is it developable?
No.
No.
Well, this certainly is, I mean, this is owned by, could he sell this as per house lot?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know,
no,
what
it
happened
doesn't-
was he carved this out from this. This was one lot originally. He carved this out to get the price down. But this is landlocked, but doesn't real estate law say you can't landlock a piece of land?
No.
Something?
No. So, yeah, the fact that it doesn't have access certainly would impact its appraised value, but there seems to be a question as whether the town might have an easement over this parcel to get to this parcel.
I think it's worth taking another look at to see what we could do with it. I wouldn't want to just buy it and inventory it.
Well, I think it makes sense to add to, the existing,
I had forgotten how much other conservation land is up there.
yep, and I
As
think.
I recall, Billy, it was pretty attractive.
Yeah.
So how about if we,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it's urgent, like we need an answer right away. It's not gonna, it has to go to town meeting, which isn't gonna be this year, obviously. So why don't we talk about maybe trying to get up there and look at it, if that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, if they need, I think we could, at a minimum, just say, hey, it's of some interest in us
Yeah.
because there's other conservation land there. And then some of you, since I can't walk anymore, some of you guys
Yeah.
can get up and take a look
I'm
at it.
with you that this is not one that I would dismiss out of hand right
Right,
away.
right.
Some of them we can, but but this one, I think there's enough,
I don't
to
know.
your point, there's enough continuity.
What I did, I
and
forgot to
continuity.
look, Dave, can you go from that property, can you walk up to Freeman Lake? If you follow along Stony Brook?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, could we actually create a trail?
Well,
that-
the
You'd have to go
canal-
under the highway.
Canal goes to the
So
lake.
just put a trail next to the canal all the way up to Freeman Lake?
Can you get under the highway? I mean, there must be a culvert or something there, right?
Well, yeah, that's a problem. You'd have to get up to Willis. And, I'm sorry? You don't want us to go up to Willis? The other problem is, where would you allow cars to park?
Yeah. Let's just, in the
Yeah.
interest of, let's table it for the moment, but if we all agree with that we're interested,
I
as opposed
think it's
to
worth certainly looking at.
not, yeah. Is that reasonable?
Yeah,
You okay with that? You're not too interested.
Well,
you want
if,
ability to keep an eye on it.
me, if it's not developable, what's the hurry to get anything done with it?
No, there is no
There is no
hurry.
hurry.
It's not
Well,
developable.
although I think Mr. Gordon did tell me that he does have a pending offer from another party, so.
Okay.
We need to ask somebody who can do something. I don't know that anybody can do anything with it.
You mean in terms of development? Yeah, no, I don't think it can be done.
So the only one to be interested would be in a butter.
Put them in a butter, yes. I think another question is, does the town, the commission want to spend, $5,000 to get an appraisal or just buy it for the assessed value?
I wouldn't, I don't know, I'd have to ask a real estate person that question.
Okay,
Alright.
then maybe can we see if we can figure out a time to go get at least a few of us to go get our eyes on it? And
I'll get back to Mr. Gordon and,
I'm not sure how we
Carl,
access
just as,
it.
and Dave, for a future conservation meeting, maybe in the winter, we ought to go revisit the big schedule that says, here's the list of the land that's left in town.
Yeah.
And we ought to try to take another look at it. We had prioritized it
Yeah,
once.
it's been a couple of years.
And see if we still agree with the priorities.
Yep, I agree. Mention it to Chris. Okay. I'm trying to figure that out too. Yeah. Okay, so, that was the Wilson Lane discussion. We are not voting on it. Land management update on Warren Pole reservations, so.
We're selling tickets.
We're getting really close. I'm getting tired of saying that, but we are really getting close. The parking area, I think, is done. There's still equipment there, at least it was yesterday. Maybe
Yeah, there's
it's
still stuff there.
it's still, yeah, it was there last night, but, or this morning. But there's not much left for them to do. We're waiting on the sign.
You talked to him?
I went and visited him, and he owes me an answer on the CPC engraving, but we do have a down payment for the granite, for the conservation sign. We're told it should be early October, but we'll see.
Yeah.
The DPW, once they get the street signs that they can get posted on the street that say Warren Pole Reservation this way, we coordinate that with putting a posting up on the town website that says we're open. And, because right now you can go in there and park, the kiosk is up, everything looks good. We don't have all the trails marked, but we'll get that, in the next few weeks.
It looks nice. I was up there. It looks real nice. They put the riprap along the side of the
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
so the water.
Yeah.
They've done a super
Are you
job.
still doing the granite posts with the chain?
Done.
Where's that?
The chain's not there, but the granite
Okay.
posts are in place yesterday, and they're gonna put the chain in. Maybe the chain was today, I don't know, but they were gonna put a chain in, so.
You know, when you first drive in, around the corner, they cut some trees, and there was a granite post laying in a pile of stones. Did you use that one somewhere?
They did not, I believe that's still poking around in somewhere, but Joe Erickson had a couple other posts from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And he put them in, so.
But I
yeah.
hate to see him just get.
Yeah, he
Thrown away.
probably takes that one and throws it in another pile and for
Right,
another day.
right.
So the conservation restriction, we're still pushing on that one. And I know we were looking to get some more activity from Land Stewardship, Inc. I don't know if you've heard any more from Jess or.
No, I haven't had a
On what?
chance to get back to her.
The BDR, the baseline
yeah.
documentation.
Yeah,
review,
that's
so-
becoming a gating item on the although I haven't heard any comments from Alf, of you
Yeah.
guys.
No.
So I don't know whether he's reviewed, or even got to reviewing our document or not yet, so.
Yep.
Hey, the guys that volunteered with you to do the kiosk and all that,
we had a great-
amazing.
We had a great crew. That was actually a really fun project. It didn't take that long. The DPW guys dug the holes for us, so it was pretty straightforward. It's
Yeah,
a
but
post and beam construction, so, it was like, less than 2 hours.
I
It was
think we oughta-
up and running.
yeah,
Carl has kind of got an inventory of this condition of kiosks at other reservations, and we like this one we bought, even though it's a
Yeah.
little pricey, but we like it, and we can get we could maybe buy like 3 or 4 and get a better
Well,
price.
what we might be able to do is you kind of model this one and get the raw.
Mark's retired, he could design it.
Yeah, get the raw materials, and the pole barn at the site is a good place to do the fabrication and
Right.
staging.
We
so-
didn't have that before.
Yeah, so that's,
So that's- yeah,
so
we
we may
just-
look at doing that, because I really like the way this thing's built and the way it
Billy's
comes
pretty
in.
good
It
at
looks
finish
great.
work, too.
Okay, The next item here is the planning for the BB Wright trails.
Let's not hang around for that unless you're gonna.
Well, the only thing I want to say, David and I went out there yesterday, and, you know, we talked about this. This was a request from Phil to have an Eagle Scout do an extension of a elevated walkway. My take on it, I'll let you chime in, my take on it is, it's absolutely a must to do this kind of a project. I think it's more work than an Eagle Scout should be asked to do. Some Eagle Scouts would be capable, but many of them would really struggle, and I want to make sure this gets
Yeah,
done
and
right.
the trouble is you don't know who the supervisor is of the Eagle
Yeah,
Scouts.
some
Like
Eagle
the
Scouts
guy's
kill it,
father, or
and
his
some-
uncle, or neighbor, or who you don't know who it is.
So my recommendation is that we make this a project that we want to get done, a high-priority project for the Conservation Commission and for costs, but we do it in another manner. Steve Mayotte and I have talked about this for quite a while. We have ideas and plans on how to do this.
John, you may not be aware, there's a
but-
trust fund for BB Wright Reservation. Oh, you're okay.
Yeah. I'm aware.
Yeah, so the funding isn't really the issue.
No.
It's more just making it happen and getting the plan.
And,
But David, I guess I'd,
And a bunch of this boardwalk would be in the wetlands, is that
oh, it's
correct?
almost all in the wetlands, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
a-
that's why-
Phil
that's
said
somewhat unique
150
for
feet.
us.
I think it's longer. And, you know, if it was a 20-foot project, okay, you know, an Eagle Scout project, but when you're talking, I think it's more like 200 to 300 feet.
Yeah, it's at least two. It's
Yeah,
at least two,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, if we're gonna do it, we should do it right. so.
Yeah, and that's not to say a good Eagle Scout wouldn't do it right, but they've been inconsistent. Some are
Well,
okay, and
also,
some-
Eagle Scouts, what's the timeline for an Eagle Scout project? Less than a year?
Yeah, they have to have it done by
Yes.
their 18th
Yeah.
birthday, so, yeah. So, I'll connect with Phil on this.
Good.
And I think that was it. You had a status update on the appeal of order conditions.
Yes, so I don't think we met since DEP did its site visit in conjunction with the appeal of the order, the commission's order of conditions. And I don't remember off the top of my head what that date was. But anyway, so there was somebody from DEP there. There was he went out in a boat with, you know, someone from Solitude and also Courtney of DPW. And since then, I've gotten a couple of emails and spoke on the phone with Mr. Bogue from DEP. Kind of wants to know, you know, how the town wants to resolve this. It was mentioned a couple times at his site visit. Well, maybe the town should think about withdrawing the notice of intent. I don't think that's necessary. Though my suggestion, my proposal, the way to handle this, and I've already spoken to Paul about it, is to form a working group among representatives from all interested parties. See if we can reach a consensus as to when treatment should be done. It would probably involve surveys of some kind.
Is it when or is it if treatment should be done?
Well, I think both. I said if a treatment is done, when should it be done? But I think that's the way it should be handled. See if we can reach an agreement on this. So if assuming the commission agrees with that approach, I'd like at least 2 members to serve on that working group or be a part of that working group.
Does that money go away that was allotted for that?
I
Does it go
don't.
away next June?
I don't think so. I think it is only a 1-year contract, but.
I think Bill meant the warrant article money.
The money from the warrant
The
article.
warrant article
Right.
money itself, does that go back to free cash at the end of the year if it's not spent?
That I don't know for sure. I'll ask Paul how that works.
Because if there's gonna be studies done, it's gonna take more money to pay for the studies, and then they have to be done at certain times of the year.
That's my opinion. Yeah. But for instance, there's been talk of doing a survey now.
Right.
But I guess my question is, what relevance does doing a survey now have to a weed treatment next year? We know that last year was really, really bad, but if a survey had been done the year before in 2020, I don't think it would have told us that.
Or this year.
Right, so I think, to me, it makes more sense to do a survey very close to the time when a treatment is under consideration. And maybe that's doing, 2 or 3 surveys every year, and then making a decision at that time. Another question in my mind is, well, are there any sort of objective criteria that can be used to determine whether a survey is needed, rather than it's just, oh, it's really bad, we need to do a survey?
You certainly could wait one full growing cycle to see what happens the second year and compare it to what happened the first year, right? That's one.
Well, possibly, but I know, for
But
instance.
it's interesting that, last night, in another meeting, which I won't bore you guys with, but Pam Rivard made a comment that at Hart Pond, they're taking a look at other ways to treat their invasives other than chemicals.
Mhm.
She didn't have any specifics, but she said they'd like to get away from the chemicals that they're using.
So I guess, my question to the commission is does my proposal sound like a good approach? And if so, are a couple of members interested in?
That's 2 questions.
Okay.
I think it's a good approach. Who else would be on that besides a couple of members here?
Well, I think it would be Courtney from DPW, because they sort of manage the project. I think it'd be someone from Solitude, probably Emily Volgamore, I think that's how you say her name, and I think representatives from.
Should have
the
2
council.
people, probably 2 people from the Freeman Lake area, right?
Well, yeah, so Wanda, would you be interested in that? And I
But that's
think,
why she's here.
yes, right.
She's retired, she has nothing to do.
And one of the, and one of the other person that was, I forget his name.
Severance?
Peter.
Severance,
Oh.
he,
Possibly, I can't speak for him.
right.
Right.
I think it's a matter of, I think it's a matter of needing to be available, generally available during the day, so I don't know if he is available, but.
Yeah,
He's gonna be
certainly,
either way.
Right.
You'd rather have him in the tent than
On
out
one
of the
side
tent.
than not.
Yes, so hopefully that he can be available.
Yeah.
Agree on
yeah,
his,
no,
Okay.
that-
unless
that-
he's a part of it.
All right, so let's say that that's a reasonable recommendation, unless somebody here thinks not. But, if we're trying to move forward, we have to respond to this.
Well,
And,
just let me know, yeah, let's assuming everyone agrees with that, just let me know who on the commission is willing and available, is interested and available.
Let's take it one step at a time. Let's say that, first of all, are we in agreement that we should have some kind of call it a working group?
Yes.
In the meantime, what do we do about the appeal?
Well, I think once I can, the plan is to get back, and I think this sounds good to him, is once, to get back to him and tell him that we have formed this working group.
Yeah.
And then I think he can tailor the superseding order accordingly.
That's what he would do?
Based on what we
DEP
decide.
would issue a superseding order?
Yes,
The
Which
yes.
says,
What's that?
That's the DEP guy?
That's right.
and that says that Chelmsford has agreed to do X, Y, Z?
Right. I mean, obviously, we would have to reach the agreement first.
And
Before he can do
And the
that.
people who signed the appeal, do they have to agree to that superseding?
Well,
order?
that's would be my feeling, yes.
Yeah, yep.
That we all agree, and then once we all reach agreement. Now, I don't know if everyone living around the lake is going to agree to that. We'll just,
kumbaya.
maybe there'll have to be a public hearing or
Yeah,
a public input session,
Okay.
but at least to get started.
Are we all nodding in agreement that that's a reasonable approach?
Yes, I think it's a good idea.
I'm seeing nods, okay, so that's a good approach, thank you, David. Appreciate it.
And then
And then
just,
we'll have to, once we have what the group might look like, then we'll ask for volunteers.
okay, because I pretty much know everyone else who will be on it, so. And if
We
you
have
want
anyone
to,
raising their hand here?
I mean, you don't have to.
The bigger the group, the better, because some people aren't gonna make the meeting.
Well, I agree, but no more than 3 members of the commission can serve.
Right.
Because that would be a
Yeah.
quorum. So, yeah, if three members.
Oh, yeah,
who are-
Bill said yes.
Chris Tamula, I volunteered him.
Well, I know he works during the day, so.
Yeah,
Dave, are you interested?
not really.
You can put my name in.
Okay, Carl, thank you. And I'll try and make it easy.
I gotta get healthier before I start volunteering.
Okay, the last thing we have are we all set with this? Closed on this?
Yes.
Last thing we have here is we have a certificate of compliance for 177 Boston Road for signature, and please review the meeting minutes of August 9th and August 23rd so that we can vote to accept the meeting minutes.
So on the certificate of compliance, I just need to briefly give a little bit of background on this. First of all, this is a result of the commission wanting to go back and track all the stormwater.
Good night.
You know, all the stormwater compliance, remember that?
Yeah.
So this is an example, and it was actually the interns. The interns made all sorts of calls. This summer, they reviewed all, or maybe going back at least 20 years, they reviewed all the notices of intent that required stormwater compliance. So this is one of those where the applicant actually responded. And it was a little bit complicated because, you know, this is Triangle Motors down in 177 Boston.
A little complicated.
That was one where he was the original applicant, and there was a special condition in the order that required him to prepare an operation and maintenance plan and actually record that at the Registry of Deeds. In the meantime, the state basically came in and took it over to really redo that intersection, including stormwater. They never came back to the commission, obviously. I guess I don't think they even talked to my predecessor about it, which I fault them for. They should have. Just because they're the state doesn't absolve them of.
Not the first time, David.
I know that, and I kind of took them to task about it. But anyway, that said, so Peter has requested relief from the requirement to record the order of conditions. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I'm sorry, the operation and maintenance plan. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Peter being Triangle.
Triangle Motors has requested.
That means there will be no operation and maintenance?
No, the only part of the original plan that he ended up doing was a dry well. And he has committed to submitting the inspection and maintenance report annually. He's already submitted one. He's going to do it every year, so he's going to do that. The rest of the project is going to be turned over to the town in a ceremony sometime next spring.
That's the intersection.
And the intersection, yeah. So the town will be taking over
Ceremony.
all of that maintenance. So I don't think the town normally reports on all that kind of work they do all over town,
What
but
is the
at least we
language?
know it's getting done.
What's the language in your COC? Just issue a COC?
Yeah, my recommendation is just issue the certificate of compliance.
So move.
So what?
Second.
Okay. Just issue the certificate of compliance for 177 Boston.
Peter is David's
McAllis.
son?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Peter is David's son?
Yeah, I think so.
McAllis.
Yeah. He's taken over.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that was his first name.
Yeah.
He's got a nice little business there now.
Yeah.
Very busy.
They're busy, yeah.
Come on, Bill, huh?
Dave, how many O&Ms did they count how many O&Ms are out there that need to be a yearly?
There's probably a couple of dozen. I actually got responses from maybe 5.
That's not bad.
No, I think that's a good start. It is, to some extent, it is going to be a matter of chasing these people. I don't think there's any way around that, but at least the ones I've talked to so far are cooperative. They just need some guidance.
Okay, thank you. Let's take do I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes for August 9th?
So moved.
So moved. Second by Mark. Dave moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes of August 23rd?
So moved.
So moved by John. I saw John first.
Second.
Second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. I'll take a motion.
Move adjourned.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're closed. Thank you, Chelmsford Telemedia.
Good job, Carl.